You're sitting in a room you know well. The light is soft. The air is still. Everything feels normal. But somewhere in the back of your mind, there's a whisper. A feeling you can't quite name. It's the sense that something is off. That someone, somewhere, has been inside your head. And the worst part? You invited them in. You didn't mean to. You didn't see it happening. But they're there now, moving your thoughts like pieces on a chessboard, and you've been playing a game you didn't even know had started. This isn't paranoia. This is pattern recognition. And by the end of this, you'll see patterns everywhere. Patterns in the words people use. In the way they look at you. In the silence that follows a question you thought was innocent. You're about to learn something that death row psychologists discovered years ago but rarely talk about in public. Something that changes how you see every relationship, every conversation, every moment of trust you've ever given. Your mind is not entirely your own. Not yet. But it can be. I've spent years studying manipulation. Not the kind you see in movies. Not the dramatic, obvious control that announces itself. I'm talking about the invisible architecture of influence. The kind built by people who understand something fundamental about human psychology. Something most of us never learn. They know that your mind has doors, hidden entrances, and they know exactly how to walk through them without you ever hearing the lock turn. This is happening to someone you know right now. Maybe it's happening to you. And here's what makes it so dangerous. The people who need this information most are the ones who think they don't. They believe they're too smart, too aware, too strong to be manipulated. That belief is the first door. Let me tell you about Sarah. She was 32. Confident. Successful. The kind of person who gave advice to friends about their relationships. She met someone at a conference. We'll call him Daniel. He was charming in a quiet way. Not overwhelming. Not too eager. Just present. Attentive in a way that felt rare. He asked questions about her life that no one else seemed curious about. Her childhood. Her dreams. The small disappointments she'd buried. And he listened. Really listened. Within weeks, she felt like she'd known him forever. He called her his soulmate. Told her he'd never met anyone who understood him the way she did. He sent her messages at 2 a.m, long and vulnerable, about his painful past. She felt chosen. Special. Like she'd finally found someone who saw the real her. 3 months in, something shifted. The messages slowed. He stopped calling when he said he would. When she asked if everything was okay, he said he needed space. Just a day or two. Then he came back, more intense than before. Flooded her with attention. Took her to dinner. Told her he couldn't imagine life without her. She felt relief wash over her like a wave. A week later, he disappeared again. This cycle continued for months. She stopped seeing friends. They didn't understand. They said he was playing games. But they weren't there in the moments when he held her face in his hands and said she was everything. She started checking her phone constantly. Waiting. Her stomach would drop when hours passed without a message. When he finally replied, the relief was so intense it felt physical. She didn't notice she was losing weight. That she couldn't focus at work. That every emotion in her life was now tied to whether or not he responded to a text. This is called intermittent reinforcement. And it's more common than you think. Your mind is not entirely your own. Not when someone else controls the reward system. Here's what was happening to Sarah. Her brain was being trained. Every time Daniel disappeared and then returned, her brain released dopamine. The same chemical that makes gambling addictive. The same one that keeps people pulling slot machine levers for hours. The unpredictability is the hook. If he'd been consistently distant, she would have left. If he'd been consistently attentive, the relationship would have stabilized. But the pattern of withdrawal and return created a neurological dependency. She became addicted to the relief of his return. And he knew it. Maybe not consciously. But manipulators don't need psychology degrees. They just need to feel what works. Has anyone ever made you wait? Made you wonder if they were still interested? And then, just when you were about to give up, they came back with just enough warmth to pull you back in? That's not love. That's training. Here's how you recognize it. Pay attention to patterns. Does someone in your life make you feel amazing, then withdraw without explanation? Do you find yourself walking on eggshells, trying to figure out what you did wrong? Do you feel relief more often than you feel joy? That's the signal. Your nervous system is being hijacked. Here's how you defend yourself. Break the pattern. When someone withdraws, don't chase. Don't wait by the phone. Fill your life with other sources of joy, connection, and meaning. Make yourself unavailable for the cycle. The moment they sense you're not playing anymore, they'll either escalate or leave. Both outcomes tell you everything you need to know. But that's not the worst part. Let me tell you about Marcus. He worked in a corporate office. Mid-level management. He had a colleague named Jennifer. She was brilliant at her job. Everyone knew it. But there was something else about Jennifer. Something subtle. In meetings, she had a way of presenting ideas that made you question whether you'd actually contributed anything. Marcus would suggest a strategy. She'd nod, smile, say nothing. 2 weeks later, in a meeting with executives, she'd present the exact same strategy as her own. When Marcus pointed it out, she'd look confused, surprised. She'd say something like, "Oh, I thought we came up with that together. I must have misunderstood." And then she'd turn to the room and say, "But Marcus is right, we should give credit where it's due." Except by then, the executives had already associated the idea with her. This happened over and over. At first, Marcus thought he was being paranoid. Maybe he had said "we" instead of "I." Maybe his memory was off. He started doubting himself. Started keeping notes of every meeting, every email, every conversation. He became obsessed with documenting his work. His confidence eroded. He stopped speaking up in meetings because he couldn't trust that his ideas wouldn't be reframed as collaborative when they were actually his alone. One day, he overheard Jennifer talking to another colleague. She was laughing. She said, "Marcus is so easy to work with. He never fights for credit." That's when he realized. She wasn't confused. She was calculated. This is called gaslighting. And it's more common than you think. The term comes from a play where a husband manipulates his wife into believing she's losing her mind. He dims the gas lights in their home and then denies that the light has changed. She starts to question her own perception, her own reality. In modern manipulation, gaslighting is a weapon. It's used to make you doubt what you saw, what you heard, what you felt. Has anyone ever told you that something didn't happen when you know it did? Has anyone ever made you feel crazy for remembering a conversation differently than they do? Has anyone ever said, "You're too sensitive," or "You're imagining things," when you brought up something that hurt you? That's gaslighting. And the reason it works is because of something death row psychologists discovered decades ago. The human mind craves coherence. When there's a conflict between what you experienced and what someone else tells you is true, your brain will work overtime to resolve that conflict. And if the other person is calm, confident, and consistent in their denial, your brain will often choose to doubt itself rather than accept that the other person is lying. It's easier to believe you're wrong than to believe someone you trust is deliberately deceiving you. Here's how you recognize it. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Start documenting things. Not obsessively. Just enough to give yourself a record. Emails, texts, dates. When someone contradicts your memory, you'll have proof. And here's how you defend yourself. Stop explaining. Stop defending your reality. When someone gaslights you, they're not confused. They're testing whether you'll abandon your own perception to keep the peace. The moment you say, "I know what I saw," and refuse to argue further, you take your power back. Your mind is not entirely your own. Not when someone else decides what's real. Now imagine this. You're in a relationship. It's been a year. Things are good. Not perfect, but good. You have small arguments like everyone does. But lately, something's changed. Your partner has started mentioning someone new. A coworker. A friend. They talk about this person often. How funny they are. How easy to talk to. At first, you don't think much of it. But then the comparisons start. Subtle ones. "Sarah always laughs at my jokes. I feel like you don't find me funny anymore." Or, "I was telling Mark about that thing you did, and he said his girlfriend would never do that." You start to feel a creeping sense of competition. Like you're being measured against someone you've never met. You ask about this person more. Your partner says you're being paranoid, that they're just a friend, but then they mention them again and again. You find yourself trying harder, being funnier, more agreeable, less demanding. You start to change your behavior to win back something you didn't realize you'd lost. And then one day, your partner says, "See? This is why I can spend time with Mark. He doesn't get jealous and insecure like you do." You feel shame wash over you. Maybe you are too jealous, too insecure, too much. This is called triangulation, and it's more common than you think. Triangulation is when someone introduces a third person, real or imagined, into the dynamic to manipulate your emotions. The goal is to create insecurity, competition, and compliance. It keeps you off balance. It makes you work harder for approval, and it gives the manipulator leverage. They can always threaten, implicitly or explicitly, that someone else is waiting in the wings. Someone better. Someone easier. Death row psychologists have studied this in extreme environments. Cult leaders use it. Abusers use it. Narcissists use it. They create hierarchies of favor. They let you know, subtly, that you're not the favorite, that your position is conditional, that you can be replaced. Has anyone ever made you feel like you're in competition for their attention or affection? Has anyone ever compared you unfavorably to someone else? Has anyone ever threatened to leave you for someone who understands them better? That's triangulation. Here's how you recognize it. Notice when someone frequently mentions another person in ways that make you feel inadequate or anxious. Notice when you start changing your behavior to compete with someone you don't even know. Notice when you feel like you're auditioning for a role you thought you already had. Here's how you defend yourself. Refuse to compete. The moment you realize you're being triangulated, name it. Say, "I'm not interested in competing for your attention. If you'd rather be with someone else, go." Most manipulators will back down immediately, because the game only works if you play. If you refuse, they lose their leverage. But that's not the worst part. Let me tell you about Elena. She had a mother who loved her. At least, that's what everyone said. Her mother was involved in every part of her life, gave advice, offered help, but there was always a price. If Elena didn't call her mother every day, her mother would call her crying, saying she felt abandoned, unloved, that after everything she'd sacrificed, this is how Elena repaid her. Elena felt suffocated, but every time she tried to create boundaries, her mother would bring up the past. The time she stayed up all night when Elena was sick, the money she spent on Elena's education, the dreams she gave up to raise her. Elena felt trapped, guilty, like she owed her mother her entire life. She canceled plans with friends to spend time with her mother. She stayed in a city she hated because her mother didn't want her to move. She made decisions not based on what she wanted, but on what would keep her mother from crying. One day, Elena snapped. She told her mother she needed space. Her mother didn't yell. She didn't argue. She just said quietly, "I understand. I'll be okay. I've always been okay alone." And then she hung up. Elena felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. The guilt was unbearable. She called back within an hour, apologizing, promising she didn't mean it. Her mother forgave her. But the message was clear. Boundaries were betrayal. This is called guilt tripping and obligation manipulation. And it's more common than you think. Guilt is one of the most powerful emotional weapons in the manipulator's arsenal. Because guilt is tied to morality, to your sense of being a good person. Manipulators know this. They know that if they can make you feel like you're selfish, ungrateful, or cruel, you'll do almost anything to prove you're not. They weaponize your kindness, your empathy, your sense of duty. Has anyone ever brought up past sacrifices to make you feel obligated in the present? Has anyone ever made you feel selfish for having boundaries? Has anyone ever cried, shut down, or played the victim when you tried to assert your needs? That's manipulation through guilt. Here's how you recognize it. Notice when someone's pain or disappointment is always tied to your choices. Notice when you feel guilty for things that aren't your responsibility. Notice when the word no feels dangerous. Here's how you defend yourself. Understand that guilt is not the same as responsibility. You can care about someone without being responsible for their emotional state. You can love someone and still have boundaries. Practice saying no without explaining or justifying. The more you explain, the more ammunition you give them to argue. A simple, "I'm not available for that," is complete. If they push, repeat it. Don't engage with the guilt. Just hold your ground. Your mind is not entirely your own. Not when someone else controls your guilt. So, listen to your gut. What is it telling you? Think about the people in your life right now. Think about the moments when you felt small, confused, off balance, when you questioned yourself even though you knew, somewhere deep, that you were right. Those moments weren't random. They were designed. Now imagine this. You have a friend. You've known them for years. They're fun, charismatic. Everyone loves them. But you've started to notice something. Every time you share good news, they somehow turn the conversation back to themselves. You got a promotion? They just got offered an even bigger one. You're going through a breakup? Their breakup was worse, more painful, more dramatic. At first, you think they're just relating, sharing their own experiences to connect. But over time, you realize something. You never feel heard. You never feel celebrated. And when you try to talk about something difficult you're going through, they either minimize it or turn it into a story about themselves. One day, you confront them gently. You say, "I feel like when I share things with you, the conversation always shifts to your life." They look hurt. So, they say, "I can't believe you'd say that. I've been such a good friend to you. Remember when I helped you move? Remember when I listened to you talk about your ex for hours?" And suddenly, you're the one apologizing. You're the one who feels guilty for bringing it up. This is called DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. And it's more common than you think. DARVO is a manipulation tactic where someone who's been confronted about harmful behavior immediately denies it, attacks you for bringing it up, and then positions themselves as the real victim. It's disorienting. Because in the span of a single conversation, you go from expressing a legitimate concern to defending yourself against accusations that you're the problem. Death row psychologists have seen this in the most extreme cases. Violent offenders who, when confronted with evidence of their crimes, immediately claim they're the ones being persecuted, that they're misunderstood, that the real victim is them. But you don't have to be on death row to use DARVO. It happens in living rooms, in offices, in text messages. Has anyone ever responded to your complaint by making you feel like the bad guy? Has anyone ever turned your pain into their victimhood? Has anyone ever made you apologize for bringing up something they did? That's DARVO. Here's how you recognize it. Pay attention to how people respond when you express hurt or set a boundary. Do they take responsibility? Or do they deflect, deny, and make you the villain? Healthy people say, "I'm sorry. I didn't realize that hurt you. I'll do better." Manipulators say, "I can't believe you'd accuse me of that. After everything I've done for you." Here's how you defend yourself. Don't take the bait. When someone tries to reverse victim and offender, don't defend yourself. Don't explain. Just restate your original point. "I'm not attacking you. I'm telling you how I feel." If they continue to deflect, end the conversation. You don't need their permission to feel what you feel. But that's not the worst part. Let me tell you about David. He was married for 8 years. His wife, Claire, was the center of his world. But something had changed over the years. She'd become distant, cold. When he tried to talk to her, she'd give one-word answers. When he tried to touch her, she'd pull away. He asked her over and over what was wrong. She'd say, "Nothing." Or, "I'm just tired." Days would pass in silence. He'd feel like he was living with a ghost. The tension was unbearable. He'd do anything to break it. He'd apologize for things he didn't do. He'd buy her gifts. He'd beg her to talk to him. And then, suddenly, she'd be warm again. She'd smile, touch his hand, act like nothing had ever been wrong. The relief he felt in those moments was overwhelming. But he never knew when the silence would return. And it always did. Without warning, without reason, he started to feel like he was losing his mind. Like he was the problem. Like if he could just figure out what he was doing wrong, the silence would stop. He became hypervigilant, watching her face for signs of mood change, analyzing every word he said, walking on eggshells in his own home. One day, he found a journal she'd left open. In it, she'd written, "When I stop talking to him, he does anything I want. It's the only time he really pays attention." That's when he realized the silence wasn't emotional withdrawal. It was control. This is called the silent treatment or emotional withdrawal. And it's more common than you think. Silence is a powerful weapon because humans are wired for connection. When someone we care about goes silent, our brains interpret it as a threat. We'll do almost anything to restore the connection. Manipulators know this. They withhold communication, affection, or presence as a form of punishment. The goal is to make you so desperate for reconnection that you'll comply with anything. You'll apologize for things you didn't do. You'll accept blame for problems that aren't yours. You'll change your behavior to avoid the silence. Has anyone ever punished you with silence? Has anyone ever refused to tell you what's wrong, leaving you to guess and spiral? Has anyone ever shut down emotionally and left you feeling like you're drowning in the absence of their warmth? That's emotional withdrawal as manipulation. Here's how you recognize it. Notice when someone's silence feels strategic rather than natural. Notice when you're expected to chase, beg, or grovel for basic communication. Notice when silence is followed by sudden warmth only after you've complied with unspoken demands. Here's how you defend yourself. Stop chasing. Stop apologizing for things you didn't do. When someone gives you the silent treatment, give them space. Real space. Fill your life with other people, other activities, other sources of joy. If the silence is manipulation, they'll come back when they realize it's not working. If it's genuine emotional processing, they'll come back when they're ready to talk. Either way, you're not responsible for managing someone else's refusal to communicate. Your mind is not entirely your own. Not when someone else controls the silence. Think about this right now. Who in your life does this? Who makes you feel like you're constantly guessing? Like you're one wrong word away from losing their approval? Who makes you work harder for connection than connection should ever require? Now imagine this. You're in a new relationship. It's intense. Within weeks, this person is talking about the future, about how you're meant to be together. They text you constantly, call you every night, want to spend every free moment with you. They say things like, "I've never felt this way before, and you're the only one who understands me." They give you gifts, write you letters, tell you you're perfect. You feel like you've won the lottery, like you've finally found someone who sees you. But then a few months in, something shifts. The texts slow down. The calls stop. When you ask what's wrong, they say they need space. Or they criticize something about you. Something small. The way you laugh. The friends you keep. Your job. You feel blindsided. Confused. You try harder. You change the things they criticized. You reach out more. And slowly they come back. But they're different now. Colder. More critical. The person who once called you perfect now points out your flaws constantly. You find yourself trying to get back to the beginning. To that feeling of being adored. But it never quite returns. This is called love bombing. And it's more common than you think. Love bombing is when someone overwhelms you with affection, attention, and intensity at the beginning of a relationship. It's not genuine connection. It's a strategy. The goal is to create dependency fast. To make you feel like this person is your soulmate, your everything, before you have time to see who they really are. And then once you're hooked, they pull back. They start to criticize, to withhold. And because the beginning was so intense, you'll do anything to get back to that feeling. Death row psychologists have studied this in cult recruitment, in abusive relationships, in high-control environments. The pattern is always the same. Idealize, devalue, discard, or repeat the cycle. Has anyone ever come on too strong too fast? Has anyone ever made you feel like you were everything, and then suddenly treated you like you were nothing? Has anyone ever created an intense bond quickly, only to use that bond to control you later? That's love bombing. Here's how you recognize it. Be wary of intensity at the beginning. Healthy relationships build gradually. If someone is talking about forever after 2 weeks, That's not passion. That's a red flag. Notice when the early adoration is followed by criticism or withdrawal. Notice when you find yourself trying to earn back the version of them that existed in the first few weeks. Here's how you defend yourself. Slow down. No matter how good it feels, take your time. Real love is patient. It doesn't rush. It doesn't demand instant commitment. If someone makes you feel guilty for wanting to take things slow, that's information. Trust it. But that's not the worst part. Let me tell you about Priya. She had a close group of friends. They'd known each other since college. But over the years, one of them, Natalie, had started to change the dynamic. Natalie had a way of pulling Priya aside to share secrets about the others. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but Jessica said something about you the other day. Priya would feel her stomach drop. What did she say? Natalie would hesitate, like she didn't want to cause drama. Then she'd share something small. Something that could be interpreted as harmless or hurtful depending on the framing. Priya started to feel paranoid. She'd look at Jessica differently. Wonder if Jessica actually liked her. Meanwhile, Natalie was doing the same thing with Jessica, telling her things Priya had supposedly said. Over time, the group fractured. People stopped trusting each other, stopped being vulnerable. Every conversation felt loaded. Priya didn't realize until years later that Natalie had been the common thread, that every conflict, every misunderstanding had been seeded by her. Natalie wasn't sharing information out of concern. She was creating chaos. Because chaos kept her at the center. It gave her power. This is another form of triangulation, but it's worth naming separately because it's so insidious. It's the manipulation of information. The strategic sharing of secrets, half-truths, and reframed conversations to create conflict between other people. The manipulator positions themselves as the confidant, the one everyone trusts, while quietly poisoning every relationship around them. Has anyone ever come to you with information that made you distrust someone else? Has anyone ever said, "I probably shouldn't tell you this, but," and then proceeded to tell you something that changed how you saw another person? Has anyone ever seemed to always be in the middle of drama, but never the cause? That's information manipulation. Here's how you recognize it. Notice when someone frequently shares secrets or complaints about others. Notice when that person seems to thrive on conflict or chaos. Notice when your relationships with others start to deteriorate, but your relationship with the person sharing the information stays strong. Here's how you defend yourself. Go to the source. If someone tells you something negative about someone else, talk to that person directly. Most of the time, you'll find the story was exaggerated, taken out of context, or entirely fabricated. Manipulators rely on you not verifying information. The moment you start verifying, their power collapses. Your mind is not entirely your own. Not when someone else controls the narrative. Let that sink in. Everything I've just told you is happening somewhere right now. To someone you love. Maybe to you. And here's what makes it so dangerous. Most people don't see manipulation until it's too late. Until they're so deep in the pattern that they can't remember what normal felt like. Until their self-esteem is eroded. Until they're isolated from the people who could help them see clearly. Death row psychologists will tell you something most people don't want to hear. Manipulators aren't always monsters. They're not always obvious. They don't announce themselves. Some of them are charming. Some of them are victims of manipulation themselves, repeating patterns they learned. Some of them don't even fully realize what they're doing. But that doesn't make it less dangerous. In fact, it makes it more dangerous. Because you trust them. Because they seem normal. Because everyone else likes them. The most effective manipulators are the ones who would never be suspected. But here's the truth that matters more than anything else. You can learn to see it. You can learn to recognize the patterns. The red flags. The moments when something feels off. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You become dangerous to manipulators. Because you're no longer an easy target. You're no longer someone who can be controlled through silence, guilt, or confusion. You're someone who knows the game. And people who know the game don't play it. So here's what you do now. You pay attention. You trust yourself. When something feels wrong, you don't talk yourself out of it. You don't make excuses for people who make you feel small. You don't accept treatment that erodes your sense of reality. You document when necessary. You verify information. You set boundaries without apology. You refuse to chase people who withdraw to control you. You stop competing for affection that should be freely given. You walk away from relationships that require you to shrink. And you remember this. Your mind is yours. Your reality is yours. Your emotional space is yours. No one gets to take that from you. Not through silence. Not through guilt. Not through confusion. Not through charm. Not through anything. The people who manipulate you are counting on your kindness, your empathy, your willingness to see the best in them. They're counting on you doubting yourself before you doubt them. They're counting on you staying because you've already invested so much time, so much energy, so much of yourself. They're counting on you being afraid of being wrong, of being the bad guy, of being alone. But here's what they don't count on. They don't count on you waking up, on you learning the patterns, on you realizing that the confusion you feel isn't your fault. It's by design. And the moment you realize that, everything changes. You stop asking yourself what you did wrong. You start asking what they're doing. You stop trying to fix yourself. You start protecting yourself. You stop hoping they'll change. You start changing your circumstances. Now you see. Now you know. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you ignore it? Will you tell yourself it doesn't apply to you, that the people in your life aren't like that? Or will you look closer? Will you trust the feeling in your gut that brought you here in the first place? Will you allow yourself to see what you've been avoiding? Because here's the final truth death row psychologists discovered. The people who end up in the most dangerous situations aren't weak. They're not stupid. They're not naive. They're good people who wanted to believe in other people, who gave chances, who made excuses, who stayed because they cared. And that's not a weakness. That's humanity. But humanity without boundaries is vulnerability. And vulnerability without awareness is danger. So be human. Be kind. Be empathetic. But be awake. Be aware. Be vigilant. Protect your mind the way you'd protect your home. Lock the doors. Check the windows. Notice when something's been moved. Notice when someone's testing the locks. And when you catch them, don't second-guess yourself. Don't wonder if you're overreacting. Trust what you see. Trust what you feel. Trust yourself. Your mind is not entirely your own. But it can be. Starting now.